Ed Orgeron has gone out of his way to keep these two guys equal. The number of reps, where they listed on the depth chart, any type of information that has come out almost exactly balanced on them. The only tip that we have is that at one point in the Missouri game, Brennan was hit hard and might have had to go out of the game. He didn't, but they didn't know that at the time. So they had to get somebody up to warm, and they got Johnson up. That's the only place where Orgeron has tipped his hand at all.
He's done a fantastic job of trying to keep both happy.
And we've talked about why. Yeah. When you have quarterbacks in the same class and you separate them eventually, and one takes over for the other one, what we've seen is that usually will lead to a transfer. But I don't want to get to that yet. How do you feel about both of them playing?
Well, which saying do you want to go into? If you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. Or maybe these two guys do something a little bit different, which I do think that's true. I think Max Johnson's a guy who's an RPO guy who can run the football, who can actually pull it on his own read, and TJ Finley is the guy with the big arm. So, could we potentially see both? Yes. Is it the best case scenario? I don't know that. I don't know, because they're two different game plans, in my opinion. If it's Max Johnson, I feel like it's going to be a true RPO with John Emery's system where everything is a play-action pass. He has the ability to do multiple things. And I think if it's TJ Finley, it's more of a Myles Brennan system where you're out there and you're pushing the ball down the field. So it just depends on which system they think is going to work best against South Carolina.
The other thing is that it has to be pre-scripted if both of them are going to play, I think.
Yeah.
It has to be, okay, you're going in at this point. Because otherwise, if you go in and you say, well, we'll see how it goes, then if one of them starts to plays poorly, the other one goes in, then they think it's performance based, and you risk losing their confidence at that point. On the other hand, if you script it, you say, okay, Johnson's going to start, but Finley will play the third series or the second series or the fourth series. Well, then what? What if Johnson goes out there and they take the football and they go on an 8-play, 75-yard drive and score a touchdown?
Oh, he's out there next.
You don't want to take him out of the game. But if you commit to it and say, I'm going to put the other guy in, or if it's Finley that goes in there first and he leads the drive, and then you say, well, I promised the other guy the third series.
Yeah.
Well, what if the first guy takes you on 2 scoring drives? You don't want to take him out. So you sort of caught. Yeah. It's not an enviable position. I would say to you that I would be more comfortable picking one and letting him go, and unless he just completely falls apart, then stick with the one guy.
Here's my analyst on this. I think if you want to establish the run, if you want to be balanced, then I think Max Johnson's the best case scenario. I think he's a guy that himself can run. We've seen him run. Well, at least I have over there in the scrimmages that are closed, but I've seen him bust long runs against the defense. I've seen him in high school. That's who he is. He is more of a dual threat guy. I truly think he can be a dual threat guy. And if you want to establish a run, if you want to control the clock, if you want to try to keep all those old cliches into winning this game, then I think he's the option. Now, if you're playing catch up and you're having to push the ball down the field, I think TJ Finley is the option. So what game plan do you want to have? Me personally, I think it's more the Max Johnson game plan. I think it's all the things that we've talked about. I think he is a quarterback that allows you to try to dictate the pace of the game a little bit better. And again, that's nothing against Finley, but that's what LSU needs right now.
You can put the read option back in the game plan.
And actually have the quarterback pull it and run it, yes.
Probably a lot more than even you would have last year when Burrow did a decent amount of that stuff. But Johnson, he made the comp to Burrow. He said he's a little bit, I think he said, I don't know if he said faster, more athletic.
Faster,
okay. Yeah. So we get the idea that he could that he could do that. It's a tough deal, man. On the other hand, South Carolina's got no idea what to prepare for. They haven't seen any film on these kids other than their high school stuff.
Yeah, it wouldn't be smart to name a starter. There's no benefit in that because your team knows who's going to be starting.
He said he would tell them on Thursday night or Friday morning who's going. And we've lived here long enough to know that ain't going to stay a secret between Friday morning and Saturday night. But we'll get that information whenever. But at that point, you've already done most of your game planning. If you're South Carolina, you can't you can't wait until Friday to say, oh, well, this is the guy that's going to be the starter. We'll prepare this way. You're mostly working on your stuff anyway. And I would think that your first order of business would be to try and confuse the young quarterback, to give him a look that he hasn't seen on film, to give him some little wrinkle that he wasn't expecting, trying to coax him into making a mistake.
Right.
That's what I would do. I'm sure that if South Carolina was starting a freshman quarterback for the first time, that's what LSU would do. I don't expect anything different from Will Muschamp. He's a pretty creative defensive mind. I would expect something fairly exotic from their defensive game plan, wouldn't you?
It'd be bad coaching if you didn't.
Yeah.
Anytime you're playing a freshman, that's the number one thing you're trying to do. You're trying to throw looks at him that he's never seen before, that they don't run in high school, that he's maybe not seen in practice, or if he's seen them, he hadn't seen them in live bullets. And so a good defense coordinator, I'll be honest with you, if I'm Will Muschamp, I'm having something that I haven't even shown on tape. I'm having 3 defensive linemen with 3 other guys standing up, walking around, just confusing the heck out of you and your offensive line, trying to figure out who's coming from where. And that's going to be the game plan. That's going to be the game plan for Will Muschamp. And if Myles Brennan's out an extended period of time, it's going to be the game plan for every defense coordinator that LSU plays.
Don't you crowd up at the line of scrimmage? You say, I'm going to take the run away for sure, and I'm going to bring heavy pressure on you, force you to make a quick decision. Yep. And if you can beat me in one-on-one coverage, then you go right ahead and do it. But I'm going to make you prove that.
You'll test the offensive line. You'll test whoever the quarterback is. You can see some double A-gap mugs for sure. Guys trying to confuse the running back, seeing if the back's going to stay in or if he's free release, all those type of things. You'll see that on Saturday pretty early in the game. And that's regardless of who plays quarterback. Now, they might look a little bit different depending on if it's Max or TJ. And, again, we're all these conversations because we assume Myles isn't playing. I know Coach O said he's questionable, but just from him answering some of the questions, it sounds like it's going to be one of the true freshmen.
The tone of his voice did not suggest that he's real confident in that. Okay, so now – Put your Steve Ensminger hat on. You got a pretty good idea of what Muschamp is going to do, that he's going to try and confuse your quarterback. How do you keep it simple for him? What do you put in the game plan that gets him comfortable?
Well, the good thing is both these guys have been here since the spring. And I know we didn't have spring practice, but the coaches have had the ability to be able to go over everything with them, even if it's via Zoom. Because if they were still in high school, they would not have that ability. They wouldn't have the access to the players like they had. And so that at least helps you because they know everything. It's not like they got here in July and you try to cram everything. They at least had the time to learn the entire playbook. And you have to narrow your play calls, but you don't want to narrow it so much that you fall into tendencies and you become predictable, because the offense has not become predictable as far as the passes and the route concepts. Now they've become predictable because they haven't been able to run the football.
Yeah.
But as far as the route concepts, we've seen Terrace Marshall score in a number of different routes. It hasn't just been one route. It hasn't been a dig route or a post or a corner. It's really been a plethora of routes. And so that's your challenge is, okay, I don't become predictable. And you know what else you do? I know you take away a little bit, but you add something. You add something because your quarterback's going to have a different skill set than the guy that possibly isn't playing. So don't be afraid to add something, which we know if there's one thing Minger's not afraid to do, he's not afraid to be aggressive and try to add something.
And if you're running the football with the quarterback, you do give him the most distinctive play that probably he can make, especially if it's Johnson, because that is, allegedly that's the most dangerous part of his game, is that the he's got some wheels. So we'll see. Not exactly what you wanted to hear. I personally expected that Brennan would be ready to go. That was kind of the indication that we had gotten last week, was that, but he's going to be okay. And then we started to get questions later in the week about, well, is it a little bit more serious? And, well, they're sending him home for the weekend. We'll see what happens.
The word we're getting, it's a unique injury.
It's a unique injury.
It's one that's not common, so it's a little bit more difficult to treat.
And he's talking about in the lower body, the midsection, but it's not necessarily the hip, but whatever it is, he doesn't sound like a guy that's going to be ready to go this Friday. So this becomes the storyline of the game now. In addition to everything else they've had thrown at them, LSU is most likely going to have to go without their starting quarterback.